FedEx full, we command in the block. Burgundy and gold, got the city on lock. Hustling plays, ain't no need to pretend. DC reppin' strong and we fight to the end. Command is moving, no breaks, no pause. Hands in the dirt, respecting the call. KDot and Amit, dissect the grind. District divider with a city in mind. Join the damn squad, don't miss a bit. And you gotta spread the word, so shit is shit. KDot.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. And this episode is the one just before free agency begins. So we're going to go ahead and give our predictions later on in the episode. We're going to begin with Bobby Wagner signing a 1 year, $9.5 million deal. He is back. Very, very important to us. He is back on the team. We're going to give our thoughts there. An edge trade, is that coming? We talked about Myles Garrett a little bit. Do we still have interest in Myles Garrett? What about Trey Hendrickson, who has now requested permission to seek a trade, leading sack getter last season for the Cincinnati Bengals across the NFL? So would we trade for Trey Hendrickson? More thoughts on Deebo Samuel now that we've had time to let it sit and marinate. Comment mailbag after the pod. But before we begin this episode, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and KDot.
Off-season moves. The stage is set. Free agency looms. We ain't done yet. Deebo in town. No need to flex. Snatching chains and breaking necks. Burgundy blood. The mission's lit. Clock starts now. Now share this shit. Share, baby. Share shit. Whoa.
Share this shit. We greatly...
I'm on one, baby. Caffeine.
Greatly appreciate you guys. Oh, it looks like we're live right now. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and begin with Bobby Wagner, who is officially...
That is not what I set up. It says record only.
Yeah, it says live.
All right.
Hey, we're doing it live. Fuck. We're doing it live. Hey, listen, Bobby Wagner, okay? Back with the team on a 1 year, $9.5 million deal. Once again, Bobby Wagner had a fantastic season for us, okay? His age 34 season, he had 132 tackles, 75 solos, second team All-Pro. He was a Pro Bowler, and he got a Defensive Player of the Year vote, okay? Like, this guy was incredible. So, KDot, your thoughts on Bobby Wagner coming back?
For the record, I don't think we're live. I think that's just for us to know that we're live. I just
That's amazing. Oh, cool. Thanks for the reminder.
I don't know why that scared me, because nothing changes. We just do the episode.
I know.
I'm a little nervous.
Just want to see your reaction. And also, like, hey, if we're doing it, we're doing it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fuck it. I know you're happy. He's back, Bobby. Look, I know that when you had made it very, very well known that the top priority was bringing back Bobby Wagner. And look, I love Bobby. I love exactly what he does for the locker room. I love his connection with Jaden. You hear stories that come out about like the way that he was leading the defense, the stuff that he was doing in his zone, even without Joe Witt Jr., the fact that he was maintaining, going to get his like master's degree, whatever, Howard University, was doing all this shit. He is like, if you picture what it is to meet a commander, like what it is we want this to be and what it to mean, we kind of like signed our mascot like last season. Like, he's everything that you want in that. So like, look, as long as the production's still there, which he was still last year, like there's some things he doesn't necessarily do as well as he used to. I'm looking at coverage more than anything, but he's still great as far as pass rush. He can still do some stuff as far as the run defense overall. He's still smart as all get out and can play with that veteran savvy and can put dudes in different positions, whatever, and just that leadership aspect of it. So, like, I'm all for bringing him back. Like, again, there's nobody waiting in the wings other than Jordan McGee, and he didn't really do anything to flash.
Maybe Dominique Hampton, too.
Maybe Dominique Hampton. But it's like none of those dudes in any short amount of time that we've seen them jumped off the page where it's like, Bobby, get the fuck out of the way for these guys. It's more like, hey, we can rotate them and see what's going on. Maybe they can get more playing time as the season goes on. But what Bobby brings to the locker room with the team at large, you don't want to miss out on that.
No, at all. And as you had stated, for me, an absolute home run bringing Bobby Wagner back as we continue to set a culture. I'm of the belief it doesn't take just 1 year, and having him back for a second year is incredibly important from that perspective. But I also mentioned the accolades. Again, a Pro Bowler, second team All-Pro, getting a Defensive Player of the Year vote. Like, the guy can still play.
Right.
So I'm very excited to have him back from his own abilities. Only checkbox he doesn't have is the age, right? Because that's to your point, KDot, that maybe he can't do some of the things he used to be able to do in coverage, for example. But outside of that, can play still, a leader on defense, mentors the younger guys. I still remember when he gave the fumble recovery ball in the playoff game against Tampa to Dominique Hampton to say, hey, you're going to remember this. So his ability to bring up the younger guys from last season, I think, is invaluable. And we'll see how the culture continues to get set with more free agency signings to come. But I am obviously over the moon. You should see our Twitter page right now. It's just retweet of everything Bobby Wagner. I mean, I'm hyped, KDot. Nothing more to be said on my end. I'm just so happy he's back.
I've only been saying what looks like you're doing lines of some sort of substance and talking about Deebo every once in a while, but I have missed the Bobby Wagners.
I'm liking what this team looks like, huh? Okay, we got a Seahawks legend. We got a Niners guy in the building. We'll get to Deebo in a
Lil
bit,
Neil Schmedium over here.
I love the offseason because I'm the one that just inhales any and all the substances being put out there in the form of tweets.
But that was the thing. It was like we used to get high on Dan Snyder off seasons until we knew that they were all full of shit, right? And now you still have that fix, like you still remembering, like, oh man, 4:00 free agency day. What's gonna happen?
Yep.
What's gonna happen? But now it's healthy to a certain. Well, no, I'm not gonna say it's healthy. The product's better. Like
that AP hits. All right, it hits.
It's in the streets.
It's really nice. But yeah,
he's coming back.
We exactly, and that's why we wanted to lead the show because he was on the team last season, and I think it's a huge signing. Zane Gonzalez also brought back. I would expect him to have some competition come this offseason, just to be clear. But it's nice to have him back because he did have a good postseason run with us, along with the games he played in the regular season. So wanted to lead the show with that. Any final thoughts here on Bobby Wagner, KDot?
Glad he's back.
Glad he's back. I'm so pumped. You have no idea. So pumped. Let's go ahead and talk about some players that are not on the team, but potentially could be in the form of an edge rusher trade. So we've talked about Myles Garrett before, so the focus will maybe be a bit more on Trey Hendrickson this time around, who very recently requested permission to seek a trade when it looks like the Cincinnati Bengals are nowhere close to wanting to give him the money that he wants. Trey Hendrickson wanted to stay in Cincinnati. It's pretty well documented, but with the numbers that far apart, he now seeks a trade. There are rumors that it could take something like a late second-round pick or even an early third-round pick, which is intriguing. I'm kind of surprised. He's 30 years old, 17 and a half sacks in 2024, 17 and a half sacks in 2023. KDot, would you make a move for Trey Hendrickson, which would include extending him to big money?
Yeah. So, like, he's in that shred. Like, look, is he ever been put in the same conversation as like a Myles Garrett in the sense of like, oh, this might be the best defensive player or best player in the league sort of thing? No, but the motherfucker's productive at a huge level on a Cincinnati defense that, I mean, for the most part, gets a lot of unheralded kudos. I mean, they don't deserve a lot of credit at all for anything that happened last season, but
James coming out party was against them.
But what is it? Everybody kind of glazes Lou Anarumo, who I've been sort of like, But it's even though Trey Hendrickson looks like a fucking accountant, like a boring accountant, he plays his ass off, right? I wouldn't mind that, and especially when it's talking about the compensation, like if you compare it to what it is you'd have to give up to get Myles Garrett, and knowing that we need somebody who has that scary pass rush ability, like that's something that we need. Yeah, if it's going to cost me a third or second, yeah, I'll totally do it over what it might cost me to do Myles Garrett. Am I putting them in the same class? No, Myles Garrett's clearly better. But part of me wonders, can we do both? Can we do both? And I really look at that as far as like from a future pick standpoint, or even like this one, right? Like going into this draft right now with the 29th overall pick, I think most of us are kind of in the realm that we're probably going to trade back out of that.
If we can, that'd be great.
If we can. And my hope, and maybe this is stupid, but my hope is that we're not picking in the top 25 ever again. So, like, if that's the case, trade them bitches. like I still want to be able to have draft picks going into each year, but as far as that value on that first round pick, even compared to the second or third round, like I think you got some flexibility, or at least some flexibility with some like pick swaps or something, giving people first rounders, maybe second rounders or high third rounders or something like that. Like, I don't know. I just think you got some flexibility there. But yeah, I mean, either one of these guys, I am never going to tell you I'm not for having them here on this team.
Yeah, that's fair. Something to note. So the way that I am now approaching this is I'm getting increasingly on the fence, right? So we made the trade for Deebo Samuel, and that comes with a $17 to $18 million cap hit. Now, the unique thing about Deebo Samuel is he has an option bonus that we can exercise. And should we choose to do that, it lowers his cap hit to $5 million. If we were to make a trade for one of these guys, fully expect them to do that, right? To lower Deebo's cap hit to 5. The reason I'm now beginning to get on the fence is because I keep that mantra in my head that build through the draft, right? And so if we end up giving up a late second, Trey Hendrickson's really, really good. I'm getting excited at the possibility of younger guys coming in, making names for themselves is sort of where I'm at. I want to push a good deal in terms of our chips for winning a Super Bowl next year, especially with Bobby. Yeah. This is probably his last year with the team. We didn't mention that, but this is probably going to be his last year with the team. It's a 1-year deal, not a 2-year deal. So yeah, exactly. So I would love to win it for him, but at the same time, I want to balance also the longer term approach. And we're starting to hand out big contracts. Terry McLaurin's probably going to get extended. Deebo, we won't do anything with right now, but if he plays really well, are we giving him money as well? Then we're giving Trey Hendrickson money. So that's why I'm glad Adam Peters is in charge and has the cojones to do what he needs to do. But I personally, KDot, am on the fence, though I'm not doubting the production that Trey Hendrickson gives. And if we end up giving a 3rd rounder for him, I mean, that would be amazing. It would be absolutely amazing. I just don't know if I believe that report.
That's the only thing that's got me really on the Trey thing is what they're talking about as far as that compensation, right? Here, a 3rd rounder for that production, even at 30 years old, I'm like, do it. Myles Garrett is, as we've talked about previously, one of those situations where you're making the move because you're getting somebody who's about to go in the Hall of fucking Fame when his career is over, and
it's an exception, right?
So like those are one of those ones. It's like I don't really care where you're at. He's good to have on your team. Period. Like there's not any team in the league that isn't better with Myles Garrett on it. And you can even see like Philadelphia looks like they're gonna fucking shake the earth to try to get him from us or whatever to prevent us from getting him. Because I'd love to hear that, but. Yeah, if they're talking about 3rd rounder for Trey Hendrickson, I don't think that's anything to think about. If we start getting in the 1st round territory, even what I said about a 1st round pick for a 30-year-old like that, you probably got to be pumping the brakes a bit, unless we're talking about some other compensation as far as pick swap or something down the road with Cincinnati. But I beyond that, if you're just telling me straight up 3rd round for Trey Hendrickson, I'm all for it.
Me too. Yeah, go ahead.
I did just get this breaking from Adam Schefter. I don't know if you saw it, but it just came across.
Yeah, go ahead.
That the Commanders have informed 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jonathan Allen today that he is being released.
Yeah, we do need a breaking news graphic. I don't know if we already have one, but that does sort of impact even this conversation as well, because that's another player on the defensive line that is now gone. It's something we had speculated about very, very early on when we were going through the contracts and going, okay, well, what sort of move could we make? So quickly on Jonathan Allen, we now save $16.5 million against the cap. Okay. He instantly becomes one of the best defensive tackles available in free agency. So someone's going to sign him. KDot's mentioned maybe the Philadelphia Eagles go, you know what? Let's stick it to him. Let's go ahead and sign Jonathan Allen. Who knows? A few years ago, absolutely magnificent. Still a very solid player, but now no longer on the team. KDot, your quick reaction to that?
Expected. I mean, like I said, the fact that he came back at the end of last year was kind of a shock to me. I really thought that when he went down, that's the last time we were ever going to see him suit up in the burgundy and gold. I just think it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. You saw the direction that the team itself was going in. I think they would have made a move if it wasn't for what he was going to get or was owed financially. It just didn't make sense, and knowing that the contract was coming up anyway. So like it ends up being a situation where it says like it ran its course. Jonathan Allen, loved a lot of what you were doing. You had these moments in your career where you did absolutely look special, but if you're looking at what it is you were able to produce this last year going in, I still think somebody's going to get somebody special. Like I keep hearing Raiders fans are really like, I'm getting a few texts from like Raiders. Hey, what do you think about Jonathan Allen? I'm like, I think he used to be special, not necessarily special right now, and could still produce hella for you if you got some talented guys around him. So you line him up with a defensive line next to Max Crosby, I think you're going to have something. But it's like, but for what we need right now and what it is that he was being compensated for us, good luck.
Yeah, that's fair. And now our top 2 defensive tackles are going to be Deron Payne and Johnny Newton, who we just drafted in the 2nd round. For now, we'll get to free agency predictions in just a moment. But matter of fact, when we drafted Johnny Newton, people began speculating even then, looking at stuff. Oh, okay, maybe this is just we're planning ahead, knowing that you can save 16 and a half, assuming Allen doesn't have an outrageously amazing year, which he did not. He had a fine year and got hurt, unfortunately. But that's where we end up right now. Carl Davis, Sheldon Day also still there, but we'll see what we do in free agency now with the additional money. There's also a low chance, but maybe Jonathan Allen sees the market and goes, okay, well, not a whole lot better. Washington's making a similar competitive offer. I can come back. I think from a pride perspective, probably doesn't happen, but again, just there's a chance. There's a chance he does come back, and I would certainly welcome that.
And I'm all for it.
Yeah, all for it. Back to Trey Hendrickson. The more we're chatting, KDot, third round pick, I think would be awesome. And you're giving him, of course, a big deal. But when you look at his production, I was just looking over his career stats as well. As a rookie, 4.5 sacks. All right. Second year, 13.5 sacks. Okay. Then he goes to Cincinnati, 14 sacks in his first year, then 8, then 17.5, then 17.5. This guy's first team All-Pro. He was in the Defensive Player of the Year race over there. I think he finished second, I want to say, a Pro Bowler. I mean, the guy, don't let his look fool you. He can play. He can play. I mean, the guy's really good. So if we're doing it for a third, great. If we're doing it for a late second, certainly understand it, and I would be on board with it. But it's this build through the draft thing that still got me excited, and just trying to see how Adam balances that.
There's always going to be a balance. But you do have to look and see there's certain positions as we go into the free agency stuff that I think you can lean on this, bring in a veteran to get your production there. I think pass rush is one of those things. Usually you look to see if you're a contender, one of those teams like right there, like a piece or two away to add somebody like that. But I mean, look, none of us looked at our roster and said that we were an NFC Championship team, but we were in the NFC Championship. So you got to kind of take that with consideration. And the way I look at Trey Hendrickson is, you see, Dante Fowler got to double-digit sacks with us, and under no circumstances do I think that Trey Hendrickson isn't a huge upgrade over Dante Fowler. So what the fuck does he do in that defense, especially if you're going to upgrade a lot of other things? I need, knowing what it is that this defense has done over the years, like looking back as far as like Dan Quinn, Joe, all these guys going back from Seattle, looking at what they did in Dallas. I need them to have somebody from a pass rush standpoint that gets in that category of special. Because I really do think that if they get there with one of those guys, I think the sky's the limit. So,
Kate, let me ask you this, because I do think that this was also an effect that caused Cincinnati to go, okay, we're not going to hit a number here. Mm-hmm. Max Crosby gets 3 years, 106, right? Resets the non-QB market. Trey Hendrickson's 30, so I don't know if he's exactly going to do that. But he, again, led the league in sacks last year. First team All-Pro. He's got 17.5 sacks back-to-back seasons. I think he's number one in sack percentage based on number of passing plays the opponent does. Are you willing to give him something like that? 3 years, 106, or 3 years, 110?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and do it. All right. So that's where we land on that. Hey, no, it's a simple question. You had
he looks, once again, he looks not just like an accountant, a boring accountant, like an accountant that drives a Volvo accountant. Like that's the kind of accountant he looks like. Yeah. The motherfucker still balls. Like he balls out. Like he's got Kerrigan had a little bit of that in him. So you saw him like start doing the Shawn Michaels bit or whatever. Like it was like, okay.
And again, now we have the extra $16.5 million in cap space, which would make that trade a lot more palatable. Again, if you exercise the option on Deebo Samuel's deal, it's only a $5 million cap hit, and then it's 3 for the next 4 years, whether he's on the team or not, and dead money. And so that's what that looks like. Any final thoughts here, KDot, before we move over to free agency predictions?
I think they're going to make a move for one of these guys.
I think that they are definitely involved with both. And at the very least, it's to drive a price up for another NFC team, maybe even the Philadelphia Eagles. So you have to, like, if you're Adam Peters, you have to be involved in these at minimum to drive the price up if somebody else is to get them. Otherwise, to get them yourself.
But I think Cincinnati is one of those teams where you're going to look at it as time goes on. It's the same thing I've been saying. I think I've said it on this podcast, but if you talk to me personally about it, I can't shut up about it, which is like the Robert Kraft of it all and the Cincinnati Bengals of it all. These are cheap fucks. They're cheap as fuck.
Maybe it's an aside. Maybe it's after the pod. I think the Patriots are going to be aggressive. I think it has more to do with Kraft being older now. And he's like, this is my last. I don't know how many years I got left.
Did you see the NFLPA rankings?
Well, I mean, I saw ours, but I didn't see the other ones.
Did you see where the Patriots were?
No.
31st.
Hey, not 32nd. Not 32nd. Let's go ahead and go to the free agency predictions over here. KDot, where again, the unofficial start is sooner than the actual start date of March 14th. So March 12th is that tampering period, which everyone now recognizes is like, let's be real, that's when people are being signed. Save a really freak JD McKissick situation where he signs with Buffalo and then goes within the 2 days, actually coming back to Washington. People are going to land up where you hear they are landing up. So you're going to see a lot of that before we're back on. KDot, what predictions do you have for it? Can be certain players, it can be characteristics. The floor is yours as to what we do in free agency.
All right. So before I kind of like monopolize and take over the whole fucking pod and just start reading at people.
And let me give you our figure real quick. Our cap space after signing Bobby Wagner. Oh, but then we released Jonathan Allen. We're looking at around assuming 86 million, which puts us in third in the NFL. Assuming we do the option on Deebo. Go ahead. Floor is yours again.
What I want to start with before we get into like the free agents across the league is the unrestricted free agents that we have, right? So like the guys that I think, so I have a list of the guys that I would bring back. So just of the list that we know of, I think I still have it here. Yeah, this one, where it's like all these guys are unrestricted free agents and what it is they were making last year, who it is that I would prioritize bringing back this year. Yeah. So in order of most to least priority. And I think that most of these get done, but I'll give you the caveats on like the ones that I think might not. Okay.
Okay. I'm writing them down. Go ahead.
Top priority to me, John Bates. He's a good run blocking tight end. Like it matters. Okay. It really does matter. And if you're talking about a team like us that had our moments, but we know that that's something that we want to do when you got a guy like Deebo Samuel that's going to be on the team. I'd like somebody that I know has the wherewithal to fucking lead block.
Yeah, and listen, I'm only putting my finger up to give you your flowers because since you said that, I want to say a month ago, there have been increasing number of reports talking about John Bates' market,
right?
And how it's going to be great because there are so few tight ends that block the way he does. So just want to give you your kudos there. Please continue, Kate.
Thank you. I keep talking about tight end. It's fucking important, you sons of bitches. Like it's important. Number 2, Zach Ertz. That's another dude that like, look, we get into some of the free agency stuff. You see some guys that become available. Looking at you, Evan Ingram, that's down there. But the reason you're bringing back Zach Ertz is not because he's the best tight end that you can find right now. He's not the most talented tight end you can find. But what he does is sort of in that Bobby Wagner lane. What he does from a leadership standpoint, what he does from a comfortability standpoint with Jaden, I love that. What I'd love is for Zach Ertz to come back on a 1-year deal. He looks really prevalent in the first few weeks of the season, and then he disappears by the end of the fucking season because you've got somebody else fucking playing for him. That's what I'd like to see as far as Zach Ertz go. Number 3, De'Ami Brown. This is the one that I think is the most up in the air as far as on this list, as far as guys that probably won't be back, because the more and more you hear, the more and more it seems like you were right that there is going to be a market for De'Ami Brown. And I do think that there are some options free agency-wise that can replicate what he does. I would like him back and have a competition. I still vote if you bring him back, there's still guys I'd like to bring in to compete for what it is that deep threat, or what I would consider, I know you might have a problem with me saying this, but a true number 2 receiver.
We'll get to it.
That's what I'm looking for, right? A guy that can step into that role when you have a Deebo Samuel, when you have these guys, when you have a Terry McLaurin on the team. Mm-hmm. Noah Igbenogany. I like, as far as guys from a talent standpoint that I like want here on the team, he's probably number 1, just in the sense of what he brought to the team last year and the fact that we need defensive back depth as best as fucking possible. At any given point in time, when one of these guys goes down, you need somebody that can come and fill in and do whatever that needs to be done. The market for Noah doesn't seem to be as strong as the market for the other guys, so he's lesser on the list. And then blowing through the rest of them, Jeremy Chin, good dude, would love to bring him back. Marcus Mariota, Dante Fowler, Nick Bellore, special teams, guys. Cornelius Lucas. Can't never have enough offensive linemen. If I look through the rest of the guys, I'll add Dieter and Scott just because, but if they're training camp or preseason cuts because we upgraded, wouldn't be too disappointed. But you need bodies. And look, we were in the Anderson Championship game. Sheldon Day. I liked when he was on the field. He had these moments. He looked good. Young guy.
Hard worker. Yeah. No.
Hard worker.
Produced too.
So I already said Dieter, Scott. And then the most controversial. I want St. Andrews back. That's just me.
All right. Wow.
I just think if you get him in the fold and you have some guys that are better than him, above him in the depth chart, I like him being around.
Okay. Interesting.
I think he shows flashes. I just don't want to have to rely on him constantly.
Understood. Okay, so to round out your list, let me go ahead and see if I got this right, KDot, because I've been writing this down. From most to least, you got John Bates, Zach Ertz, De'Ami Brown, Noah Igbenogany, Jeremy Chin, Marcus Mariota, Dante Fowler, Nick Bellore, Cornelius Lucas, Michael Dieter, Trent Scott, Sheldon Day, Benjamin St. Juste. Is that right?
Bingo, bango, bongo.
Cool.
A Tressway goes without saying.
I was like, Tressway's 14th. I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? I was about to blow
Tressway. The fact that Tressway should never be on this list. Okay,
yeah.
He's grandfathered it.
He is. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure because while you were going through this, I was like, Bates 1, Ertz 2, and I was like, all right, we've gone way too far, and Tressway's not been.
Yeah, sorry, I don't even get. I refuse to even write because I think he's a commander for life. I don't think it should have to be said.
Totally agree. So. On that, we are in full agreement. I'm looking at your list. I'll take a little more time to think through it. Why don't you go ahead and move over to other predictions outside of the team as well, if you'd like. Yeah.
Cool. So De'Ami Brown, that whole thing. So looking at wide receiver, you've heard me say this name before, Darius motherfucker Slayton. I think that's a dude that if you look at what happened in New York, can't get right as far as on offense, and whatever the production was as far as offensively in New York, I don't think is necessarily predicated on how talented I think anyone is. And I think also what you got to look at with Darius Slayton is no matter who's back there at quarterback, and no matter how much you go into the season thinking, or you hear New York Giants fans be like, oh God, Darius Slayton, we're doing this again. And then he leads the team damn near as far as receptions and targets and all sorts of shit. He just ends up near the top at the end of the day anyway, because the talent kind of speaks for itself regardless of who's on the fuck football. And what it is that I need, which is somebody that could take the top off defense. Slayton showing that he could do that. So he's my priority one as far as wide receiver. And that to me, I bring him in regardless of not whether or not we can get De'Ami Brown, because I don't have full faith in either one of them necessarily that they would do it. But I love the competition between the two to see who it is that's going to take off and be that guy, right? Mm-hmm. So depending on what compensation everything looks like, I don't think Darius Slayton is going to be a huge thing as far as free agency, so I think you can get it back. He doesn't have the sexiness to his name that De'Ami Brown has coming out of last season.
Yeah, and I also just want to add, in terms of the wide receiver market, we just saw Tutu Atwell get re-signed for 1 year, $10 million. Yeah. Right. So wide receivers tend to get a heck of a lot more money than some other positions right now, which was the thought behind the De'Ami Brown produced in the playoffs. He may well have a nice market. We'll see. Same thing with Darius Slayton, but different, right? Because he didn't have the playoffs. He hasn't had the quarterback. So maybe we do get a suppressed value. You put him with the Jaden Daniels and he pops. So that's, I think, the thinking that KDot's got there. Please continue.
100%. And then number two, as far as on a wide receiver standpoint, would be Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Okay.
Another dude that could take the top of the defense. He's shown flashes here and there over the course of his career, but I think overall everybody's been kind of disappointed. So once again, that's another dude that I'm in for as far as competition, because De'Ami Brown has everybody else might be as high on De'Ami Brown, and we might be high on De'Ami Brown seeing what we saw in that last run. But I think most Commanders fans are like, was it real? I want to know if it's real. So that's where we're at. And I think that right now, if you're going from the free agency standpoint, we're wide receiver, I think I'm in that zone of taking a chance on somebody to see if it's real. Take a chance on somebody with a lot of upside. The Zacchaeus Noah Brown of it all is you're trying to see if you get contributors, but none of these guys are really going to flash and be special. I want somebody that may be special, but we just don't know yet.
Okay, got it. So those are two. Any other names there?
Nope. As far as wide receiver, those are my top two. I mean, you can talk about the Devontae Adams or the DeAndre Hopkins of it all or anything, but none of them blow my skirt up necessarily compared to what it is. If you add them to the mix and then have with Terry, I'm not going to be disappointed, but they're just not a priority for me.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Tight end, sticking with what it is we got with Zach Ertz. I know Evan Ingram's a sexy name to everybody. I know somebody, I don't really care. This draft class is deep enough. If we're going to add to the room, I want to go through that way. Mm-hmm. Offensive line, two guys come to mind. Ronnie Stanley. Stanley, sorry. I keep saying Stanley. Ronnie Stanley, left tackle. I'm all for bringing him in. He's 30 years old, I think, at this point.
So.
And this is predicated on what I would think is that you move Brandon Coleman inside the guard, where I think his athleticism can flash just a bit more, and it's a easier job than what they're asking him to do on left tackle. And if you were like me and watched a lot of the All-22, you can see there's a lot with the mentals that he wasn't grasping as fast as you want him necessarily to. Once again, very early on, we know he doesn't have a long list of or a long career at that one position. He's still learning. But with what Jaden's doing, I'd like to get somebody that I can just plug in at left tackle and not worry about it, right?
Cool.
It'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Patrick McCarry. Another Raven. Dude that has been moved around the line a bit. I love these versatile guys that have shown that they could do shit, because depth. We've seen situations on this team this season where one guy goes down and the rest of that motherfucking game is a bit rough, right? So I need guys that can play on this offensive line, and I need dudes we can move around. I think Patrick McCarry is damn near at the top of the list as far as from a versatility standpoint, and I'd love to have him here on the team.
Okay.
Next up, that's it as far as offense. Done with offense.
That's the offense. Go ahead.
Move to defense. Number one for me on defense is DJ Reed, cornerback, played for the Jets. DJ Reed's a dude, okay? I think that he gets overshadowed by the Sauce Gardner of it all there in New York, right? But I think what a lot of people don't know, Sauce Gardner does not trail the number one receiver. They stick to one side of the field at any given point. And I'm sorry, but DJ Reed, if you look at what it is that the New York Jets have been able to do on defense, it's looked good overall. I think DJ Reed has had to play against number ones. He had to play against number two. He had to play with everybody. And he's been a great compliment to Sauce Gardner. Is he a specialist, Sauce Gardner? No. But as far as the motherfucker that can come in here, if they're still high on Marshawn Lattimore and they think with more time he could flash and be that true number one, the idea that DJ Reed's on the other side of the field just taking care of shit, we ain't got to worry about it, that to me is something special. That is somebody that I actually think could flash special.
So he's PFF's number one corner in free agency, for good reason too, because also to KDot's point, there's so many stars on the Jets defense that sometimes some names fly a bit under the radar. They all sort of affect each other with the exception of Sauce Gardner and what's his name in the interior? I'm blanking right now. Big boy, monster.
Yeah, I'm looking at his face right now because I remember Hard Knocks.
I am too. But anyway, I'm blanking right now. But those two, apologies, I've forgotten the name. But DJ Reed is a guy that does fly under the radar a little bit. And so he is a guy that could be really, really good with a bit more shine and opportunity in Washington. So I like the shout there, KDot. Please continue.
100%. Number 2, Byron Murphy. Another young cat, looks pretty fucking good. And I think if you're looking at any rankings, it's usually him and DJ Reed kind of 1-2. We need cornerback help, period. That's something that look, man, if I got Benjamin St. Juice on the fucking list to come back, you know, it's a position of fucking need. So let's address it, okay? And as well as Mike Sanderson looked,
Quinton Williams, that was his name.
That's it. Yeah,
it was bothering me.
Sorry, I wasn't going to look it up. I was trying not to. I was typing in and I was like, Quinton, yeah.
Monster.
Look like a big baby. He's got that chubby baby.
He does.
I just think cornerback is something you should put some dollars in. You could see that they jumped the gun with that with the Marshawn Lattimore thing last season. I think you probably want to spend some more money on it. I don't love the idea with a secondary that already has a Micah Sandstell in that you're adding another really young guy. I think you need to get some production and some dudes that you don't have to worry about, and maybe bring some other guys up in later rounds or whatever that you can kind of develop. But I just need somebody that we can plug and play and not worry about getting fucking burnt all the fucking time.
Yeah.
All right. Outside of corner, I'll move to safety because safety's kind of fun. So in safety, I've got 4 names. One that's special, and that's Javon Holland. Now, he's coming off of an off year. He didn't have a great season last year, but if you look beforehand, I think PFF had him 2 years ago. He was the only safety. He was one of only 2 or 3 safeties that graded over a 90, right?
He's only 25 years old.
He's only 25 years old, which is something that you really got to take into consideration when you're looking at these safeties thing. So Javon Holland is somebody who, if you can't get a Jeremy Chan right, he's somebody that flashes special as far as from a safety standpoint. Are there guys that I think we can more hone in on that are better fits? Maybe, possibly. But if you're looking for playmakers on defense, Javon Holland, looking secondary wise, shoots up to the top of the list as far as the dude probably with the most special ceiling, right? Number two is a dude who feels as though he's been in the fucking league for 15 years and has Justin Reed, who's only 28 years old. But that's another dude who's flashed special.
Championship experience.
And then this is where we get into this more tailored into, he has had moments where he looks absolutely special. Is he's diversified in what he can do as a Javon Holland? Probably not. But what they ask him to do in Kansas City, and what he's great at really good in Kansas City, is run defense. And if you're looking for our defense, what we need across the board is run defenders, okay? So this is where we go in as far as safety. Number one, as far as from a talent standpoint, is Justin Reed at 28 years old. You say 28, you're like, oh, well, that's not that old, but it's 28. But the thing is that if you compare to the other two guys got on the list, which is Cameron Bynum, who's only 26, and Hufanga. That's how you say it, right? Hufanga.
Yeah, you got it.
Hufanga. Who's only 25 out of San Francisco. Two safeties known for being dogs in run defense. I like that. I want to see that. If we can address corner in a particular way in which we can get guys that you don't have to worry about and can play man, we got to worry about them getting beat man-wise. I like dudes we know that can stop these fucking running backs when you got a Saquon Barkley in your fucking division, right? Like, give me those dudes. Give me those guys that are going to be really, really physical. And I think that also speaks to the character, what it is the defense can be. I like big, banging, bruising, that sounded kind of dirty, but I like it.
That's why people love us. Go ahead.
Yeah. Those safety, I think, is deep. Cornerback is deep. And the position I'm going to go to next is also deep. Which is, I thought you might have something. I feel like I'm monopolizing it.
No. Hey, listen, it's you, then it's me, and we're good. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, cool. Linebacker, baby. Mina Kimes, who
you want to sign Mina Kimes? No,
she said something on her pod the other day that I thought was brilliant. Especially this offseason more than any other offseason. There are three positions, linebacker, corner, and safety, that I do think when you're comparing to the draft, this is where these teams should be spending some money. And if there's any position above all positions that you should probably be looking at veterans more than signing as far as draft picks, is linebacker. There's good value at linebacker. None of these guys in linebacker are getting paid all that much anywhere, really, right? You can get really good value at linebacker. And look, when you're talking about what it is that happens at linebacker, as far as these guys are really the captains of the defense, it's an extremely important position, but it's also a position that if you can get a veteran that kind of knows what he's seen for a while, it could be good. And you never know when somebody might end up being special out of that, right? Mm-hmm. Zach Bond, out of fucking nowhere, ends up being a dog in linebacker,
Excellent point.
So, like, I'm good for finding some guys that are like that. And I think this is where I get excited in linebacker, okay? Three guys. Two guys I'm really high on. One guy I know you're really high on. Nick Bolton, Ernest Jones. 25 years old, both of them. Nick Bolton, pretty good in coverage, damn good in run defense. Is asked to do a hell of a lot in Kansas City with a Steve Spagnuolo defense. That's your green dot guy, okay? That's your dude that runs the defense. The idea that you have a 25-year-old Nick Bolton sharing reps with a Bobby Wagner and learning and developing after learning from Steve Spagnuolo, that's a dude at 25 that I'm like, he could be that dude that you're investing in and could be something truly special in a few years, right? Then Ernest Jones, damn good in run defense. Wasn't asked to do a whole hell of a lot in coverage, but he can do it just a bit. I'm a little less on him because I just think Nick Bolton's better in coverage than it is Ernest Jones. But that motherfucker, he's a dog, only 25 years old, has seen a whole hell of a lot. And the idea of you combining one of these under 26-year-old guys to learn from a Bobby Wagner and kind of take the reins over, I love it. I fucking love the idea of that. And then the third guy, which I know you're really high on, he's right there in the bottom of the screen in the center of all these guys, is Dre Greenlaw. I like Dre Greenlaw. It does look like San Francisco's going to cut him. So the idea that he'll be available in that sort of way, or at least they're not going to re-sign him for a bunch of money.
Correct.
He's the only dude of this group that is flash special. He's flash special. Now he's had some injury issues, but when he hasn't been injured, he looked along one of those upper echelon guys in the league, right? So I don't know what that's going to command as far from a salary standpoint. And also, if I'm looking at that, I think Dre Greenlaw is who he is. And this is where I get into playtime and what does it make sense? Like, if you have a Bobby Wagner's going to be here and he's going to be playing, if you're going to have your Frankie Louvu when he's here and he's going to be playing, and you're not really going to be trotting out three linebackers in your base defense anyway, I just get into like, where is he going to be? How does it fit necessarily with the guys that we have here right now? If you didn't have a Bobby Wagner coming back, maybe it opens up just a little bit more as far as what you're doing. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Of the linebackers, no one has flashed more than Dre Greenlaw as far as.
So, okay. Any other names here, KDot?
Not at linebacker.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Beyond that, just to wrap it up pretty quickly, defensive line. Only dude I'm kind of kicking the tires on is Milton Williams. I know that Milton Williams is a dude that a lot of people are kind of wondering whether or not his production's only because he's on that Philadelphia line. He's standing next to Carter. He's with those defensive line. Like, is that the reason that makes him special? But I actually think he's played pretty damn good, and I like the idea of snatching somebody away from Philadelphia because fuck you.
Yep.
Part of the game. And then edge, as far as from an edge rusher standpoint, if you're not going to be making one of the trades, the guy that I like is Khalil Mack, a dude that has been special at the position. Also known as far as his pass rush ability, but also sneakily, scarily not talked about enough. Great fucking run defender, especially at the age that he's at. And like we said, as far as this rush defense coming in last year, it's something you got to address. So I love the idea of somebody like him. You add another veteran presence to the room. You add somebody that like is hungry for it, not a locker room cancer guy, good, hardworking, punching your fucking mouth out of dude. Khalil Mack to me screams off the page as far as from that veteran edge standpoint.
Absolutely love it. So excellent list there, KDot. If I could quickly run through that, because the way I'm going to do it is it's fewer names and more characteristics. Okay. So to sign, I mean, obviously not everybody, but these are the guys you're interested in. At wide receiver, it's Darius Slayton and Hollywood Brown. Then offensive lineman, Ronnie Stanley and Patrick McCarry, right? So those are the ones over there on offense. Then we get loaded on defense. It's DJ Reed. It's Byron Murphy. Those are the corners you're interested in. Then safeties, 4 of them: Javon Holland, Justin Reed, Cameron Bynum, and Talanoa Hufanga. And then we've got 3 linebackers. We got Nick Bolton, Ernest Jones, Drake Greenlaw. And we conclude with Milton Williams and Khalil Mack on the defensive line. Did I miss any name?
Nope, you got him.
All right, perfect. So here is where I'm going to go. And I was thinking about the trades that were made by Adam Peters specifically, because last offseason entering, we had a ton of cap space, a lot of roster spots to fill, but we were coming off a 4-win season, right? Quarterback is nowhere close to solidified. Dan Quinn is getting his second chance. He brings a nice coaching staff with him, which helps get some connections through free agency, but it's a lot of one-year deals. It's a lot of guys that want to prove themselves. It's a lot of guys that go, okay, for you, Dan Quinn, I'll come. Right. And so that was the extent of our network. Right. Now that we have Jayden Daniels over there, now that Dan Quinn has that 8+ from the NFLPA report card, but more than that, he could have won Coach of the Year, and everyone just loves and adores him. Yeah. Right. This coaching staff, Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Witt Jr., they're getting head coaching interviews. This is an awesome coaching staff. So you put the quarterback in place, you have the coaching staff in place, and then I look at the trades made. Adam Peters goes after Marshawn Lattimore. How would I describe him? I would describe him as tough, physical, in-your-face, talented. He didn't have a good year with us. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. He did not. He had the hamstring, and even if he was healthy, let's say he was, it didn't go well. Okay, I recognize that. Deebo Samuel. What do I think of him? He is tough. He's physical. He's in your face, and he's talented. Right? So these are the guys that build through the draft. That's where the draft picks are going, towards those personalities, that type of character. Right? And now after the season we had, I think we load up on those types of players, because Philadelphia, one of the things that they did really well was they bullied teams. I think Deebo's a bully. I think Marshawn's a bully. And I think we're getting as many of those guys as possible with some experience, some championship experience as well. When you had mentioned Justin Reed at safety, that excited me. When you mentioned Nick Bolton at linebacker, that excited me. And that's why I really like the 49ers, because the way that they built their team is bully ball, right? Dre Greenlaw, to me, at the heart of it. Everyone talks about Fred Warner. He's a supreme talent. Right next to him, when they're balling as a team, it's Dre Greenlaw that's next to him. So he's incredibly high on my list, despite the fact we got Bobby Wagner. Excellent in coverage as well, according to PFF. So that's a guy that okay, if we're doing a rotation at linebacker, frees up Frankie Louvu to play edge a little bit if you want to. That's a chess piece you got there, right? For Joe Witt, I think we love seeing Frankie Louvu get after the quarterback. Well, now you got Dre, Bobby, Frankie on the edge. That's intriguing to me. And second and long, third and long, Dre Greenlaw, very useful. I think about Mooney Ward. The only reason he's leaving is just terrible circumstances. His family went through that miscarriage. Awful, but he's awesome. He is an awesome player just looking to get out of the state of California. Like, I would take him here. I think he would really help our defense out a whole lot. So you have Marshawn Lattimore, you have Mooney Ward, Sanders still can play the slot. I like Noah Igbenogany coming back as a depth piece or someone that could rotate in. So I think about that. And Hufanga as well, if we don't get Jeremy Chin. But Hufanga would be third on that list for me. It's Dre Greenlaw first and foremost. Like, I'm doing backflips if we get him over here. If we don't, I'm legitimately bummed. I know we have Bobby. I know we have Frankie. I would be upset. I really, really want Dre Greenlaw over here. But that's the type of character building I'm thinking about over here in terms of the personality of the team. These guys work hard. They've been to Super Bowls. Some of them have won Super Bowls, and Nick Bolton and Justin Reed. That's the way I'm thinking about free agency, and I'm so curious to see how Adam Peters chooses to do this. But when I think about the trades, because that's the true investment now, I think that's what leads me to think, okay, it's going to be people that have been there, done that, and have a really strong work ethic. All those players do.
No, I totally understand. And yeah, you're the Dre Greenlaw though, like the moving Frankie Louvu to pure like edge or at least close to the line of scrimmage to do shit.
Meaning you can. You don't have to.
You can. You know, I get it. No, trust me. Like, I think you actually get more bang for your buck in the short time by doing that with Frankie Louvu. I just think that Frankie's actually got a little bit more to give just standing up and being out in space. I've just seen some flashes of stuff that I'm just like, I want to see him work on it other than just like be the guy that's really good at the one thing.
So, so I think of Metellus he's a linebacker over in Minnesota. And there was one Monday Night Football game against the Chicago Bears, and they showed his season snaps by position. He played every single position. He played safety. He played linebacker. He played D tackle. He played edge. He even played corner. Like, no, I see it. I think of Frankie as such a versatile player. I'm not saying do all that, but I'm saying between linebacker and edge, depending on the situation, that could really help out. Right.
No, and I think Frankie being your weapon X on defense is so like, I get it. I can see the vision. I absolutely see the vision. Dre Greenlaw being here, you add him to a room with that. Like, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm like, I'm all for it. I don't know. Something really excites me about the 25-year-old and like Nick Bolton and the 25-year-old.
Which I love, by the way. I starred literally two names as you were mentioning them, and it was Nick Bolton and Justin Reed.
I love those dudes. I really just think that they're like I think those are like can be captains of your defense for like a decade, like kind of guys. Like that's where I really like those guys.
Well, KDot, even there, like what I wanted to say is that, with Kansas City, it's Mahomes, Kelsey, and ball knowers know how good the defense is. 100%. And Justin Reed and Nick Bolton are at the heart of that. Go ahead.
No doubt. But yeah, as far as the rest of your list, no notes. I'm all for it. I think that there's some flexibility as far as how they want to skin this cat free agency wise, right? And I'm all for you in the sense of like we know what it is to be a commander. At least we got an idea of what that looks like. And I don't think I named anyone or you named anyone that doesn't scream that to some degree. Like everyone that we have is like everyone on these lists are like scrappy. Like I want to punch in outstory guys. Like that's what I'm for. It's like you can kind of see that mold, and it's. I like it. I like that you can look through the free agency list. You start looking at some highlights. You'd be like, he could be a commander.
Yes,
like it's starting to feel that way for me anyway.
Yeah, and Peters has always mentioned that that's the type of team we want to be. This very physical, in your face, and his moves reflect that. I anticipate that they will continue to do so. One offensive tackle I wrote down, this is just sort of an aside, doesn't necessarily fit like that stuff. Not Trey, imagine. It's Jedrick Wills from the Cleveland Browns. So he's been injury prone and he's been inconsistent. But when I hear the report that we like our offensive line, we want to bolster the depth of the offensive line. Well, I would look no further than a 25-year-old that is looking for a second chance. That was a former top 10 pick, so the talent's there. Yeah. So I think having him and signing him as a depth piece, not sure about Brandon Coleman, no problem. Jedrick Wills is absolutely competition for the guy. Andrew Wiley, not sure about him, no problem. There's competition there too. You can do that. Left tackle is the hardest. You've seen a lot of examples of left tackle to right tackle. You're good to go. Right. So I like Jedrick Wills being here, and it allows a Brandon Coleman to go inside. Should you choose to start him, you don't even have to start the guy. I'm not sure how many people are going to sign Jedrick Wills to be a starter. So I think him coming to a franchise that just went to the NFC Championship game, that's looking to grow something special, I think that could appeal to him. And so that's the way I'm thinking about it. Young, talented, but has had his injury concerns and his lack of consistency. But I'm willing to roll the dice on a guy like that from a depth perspective.
No, I mean, to put it this way, there are a few names that I'm not going to be for from an offensive line standpoint just to have in the fucking building. I don't think that offensive line and defensive line, unless you're like severely overpaying to the point at which you can't get other guys, you're not going to hear me say that anyone that's not affordable shouldn't be here. Right. So like, I don't think you can ever have enough depth at those positions, because I hate to see the huge drop off when you don't. Like, even another guy from a depth standpoint who's not on the young side at all, but I wouldn't mind having is like Kevin Zeitler,
Tyron Smith. I'm good with these guys, especially as stopgaps. Ronnie Stanley, love Ronnie Stanley. I would take these guys. Yeah.
The reason I like Zeitler is the diversified group that he came from. Like, he was just in Detroit, so you got that offense and what it is they had with Jared Goff. But then before that, he was the offensive lineman in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. So like, I love the idea of like getting these guys that have experienced a whole lot and produced in that way. I like versatile pieces on the offensive line that you can kind of interchange and not have a severe drop off. I mean, who doesn't like that, right? But it's like, it's the only position I look to say that like I want that person to be special as far as that is that left tackle standpoint. Is like, I want somebody that like I'm willing to overpay to make sure I don't have to worry about that aspect of it. And then everybody else, like, we can kind of get the, but it's been a while, and I just want a true blue badass at left tackle. That was something that was it was a staple here, right? Like,
yes,
it needs to be the case again.
I completely agree. And I just wanted to also shout you out. Milton Williams was on my list. I just forgot to mention that. And he also fulfills the championship pedigree. He just won, right? And you get to take him from Philadelphia. Sounds pretty great to me. Sign me up for that. Final thoughts on who to bring back. I would love to. Tressway goes without saying. You and I are in agreement. Doesn't even make the list because I already think of him as a commander for life. So 100%. He's obviously here. You've won me over on Zach Ertz. The way that you've mentioned him, because initially I was like, okay, well, he's a bit older. We can do better. I like the security blanket aspect of it. Jaden has immense trust in him. Make things comfortable. The first 2 years, there are many examples of quarterbacks that do excellent their rookie year and then have a hell of a slump their sophomore year. Right. Let's try and mitigate that risk as much as possible. Zach Ertz does that for us. He's anything but a risk. I would take.
It's I wouldn't go as far as to call it like training wheels, right? But it's like, if you have a quarterback in the rookie season that's done a great job, what do you want to do? You want to continue it, right? Let's make it better without making it completely different. So like, you don't want to just, all right, fuck it, upgrade everything. And it's like, well, he doesn't know anybody he's fucking throwing the football to anymore. It's like, you got to give him those steps in order for him to be comfortable stepping outside of that zone just a bit, right? So like, so that's where you look at like wide receiver and you see we had a lot of just another guy, right? You're Noah Browns, you're Emilio Zacchaeus, even your Jamison Crowder, who we like, but it's just another guy at this point. Those are interchangeable. But if you saw somebody that it's like he had a link to, or it's like, oh, that was his safety blanket, why not continue to have some of that safety blanket and then kind of wean him off of it as time goes on?
Agreed. I would love for De'Ami Brown to come back just because he started producing in the playoffs. Not sure we can afford him depending on what that market is. So we'll see about that. Again, Noah Igbenogany from a depth standpoint, I would love to see Jeremy Chin back. I would. He's my number one safety. That's the guy I would want back. He was on the team. He had the game-sealing pick against Detroit. We'll never forget that. And just played very, very well in a prove-it year. I love guys that step up in prove-it years. He's one of them. And then looking down the list, Mariota, for me, if we can, that would be awesome. We continue to keep the quarterback room consistent, and he has done really well whenever he's had the opportunity to. I feel comfortable with him as a backup to win a handful of games if necessary. Hopefully it's not, knock on wood. And the other names, Nick Bellore, absolutely, and John Bates, you're winning me over as well. And like you said on the Zach Ertz thing, he can start as the starter, and then Benson at time. A second round pick, let's go. Like if he doesn't pop at all this second year, I'm very worried about Ben Sinnott, honestly. So that's where
I'm being completely honest. I'm already kind of worried about Ben Sinnott, but it's just because there was the lack of playing time. I have heard inklings from guys that keep talking about, like, you hear John Kine kind of allude to it a bit. There was some mental stuff with Ben that he just didn't translate properly onto the field just yet. So without, like, it's not a huge criticism, but like the idea is he's got to kind of learn to be a pro is kind of the terminology that I've heard.
Okay.
So there is
okay.
Yeah. So like, I'm not trying to skew too negative with it.
Sure.
That's the only reason I'm kind of pumped up. But that's what I've heard is like, it's something along those lines. It's not anything from a talent standpoint. Because trust me, when you saw him with the ball, you're like,
no, he's fun to watch with the ball in his hands. Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So there might just be, hey, it takes some guys, it just takes a little longer than others for them to make that click. Right.
True.
But I would say that if it doesn't have, to me, to know where it is the Ben Sinnott really fits within them is what they do with this draft. Tight end is looking real good in this draft. And if they take one of these flyers of somebody earlier on than necessary, then I would say, all right, Ben Sinnott, it's not necessarily looking good for you, at least here. Or you're going to have to kind of put up or shut up at this point. Like, and whatever that means, it looks like it's not on the field. It's sort of the off the field of what's happening in Ashburn.
Yeah, agreed. And then let's see, just to conclude, and this lends itself right into the Deebo Samuel conversation, so we can shift over there right now, actually, KDot, with more thoughts on Deebo.
All right.
I'm cool bringing back Zacchaeus, Crowder, and Noah Brown. I'm cool bringing them all back and going Deebo Samuel. And this is my first thought on Deebo, is that he instantly becomes our number 2 offensive weapon. So not just a wide receiver, but he can do it all, right? And I would expect him to prove it year. He's not about to say no to anything. Like, I think he is going to run the ball if we need him to. I think he's going to take jet sweeps if we need him to. And I think that you can put him anywhere. So that's why I don't mind the number 2 thing nearly as much. Like, if we end up getting one, all right, but I don't think we need one. I think you can have Noah Brown size or someone with size at the 2. But Deebo's still your number 2 weapon on offense. It's Terry, first and foremost. You could make the case for Jaden's legs after that. And then it's Deebo, right? And then you got guys with continuity with Jaden in Noah Brown, who was great until he had the kidney issue, right? Outside of that, I thought he had a pretty good season. And then Jamison Crowder finds spots really, really nicely, and Zacchaeus popped a little bit. So I'm cool with that because I view Deebo as this do-it-all playmaker. I'm comfortable with that, especially with the chance that we could extend him in addition to Terry McLaurin. It's a lot of money at receiver. So that's where I'm looking at it.
I don't disagree with that. Like, for the most part, like, of the, like, when we went through the unrestricted free agents that we have, I just kind of went through a list of priority. And then the thing with the wide receivers is outside of De'Ami Brown, they're all just sort of in the same box for me, which is like, I liked everything that they had to contribute over the course of the season, different parts. Sometimes it was just like somebody else stepped up and they didn't. A lot of times it was just injuries. Sometimes it was just like, but everybody had at least a moment in that room, or at least a few moments in that room that looked good for us at times. Like, the only way we get into the NFC Championship game is all these guys at some point in the season produced like a motherfucker and was able to get us out of some certain spots. It just wasn't that one of them shined the entire season at that, right? So, like, yeah, I'm all for bringing any of those guys back, depending on who it is you can get in free agency. That's why it's like, I'm not trying to rewrite the position. So, like, listen, you got Terry McLaurin under contract. You got Deebo Samuel right now. And now you got Luke McCaffrey. Those are only 3 guys. If you draft one, you're at 4. You still need like 6 these dudes overall. Yep. So, like, you do a Darius Slayton and then bring one. Like, you gotta fill the room. So, like, if it's not for one of like Darius Slayton or a Hollywood Brown, you're taking a flyer on a free agency. If you don't get either one of those, bring anybody that was here back, and then we can list the priorities, right? Now, the Deebo Samuel of it all. I think it was Nikki Joala said it. It might have been her that said it, but I remember after we recorded the pod, I was in the car. I was down in Savannah, and I was listening. I was headed to the gun range, and I was like, "Yeah, let me get some Commander stuff."
Meanwhile, I was KO'd, went to bed immediately. But go ahead.
I was at Palmetto State Armory. It's nice time. He's not a number 2. He is a weapon. Yeah, and that's what I wanted is to make sure that I was getting clear the last episode. I don't see him as a true blue number 2 receiver. Like you asked that question as far as his production at receiving yards last year. And you asked me and Paulie Polo whether or not he would exceed it.
Yes.
I said it's a toss-up. Here's why I say it's not a toss-up. His all-purpose yards will exceed that. I don't necessarily, but that's the only thing I'm willing to say. So like the idea to me is like what I'm saying. He is great for a Cliff Kingsbury offense as a weapon. I look at him in that same vein that I look at as Austin Eckler. The difference between the two, or at least you can see some similarities. What happened to Austin Eckler a lot this season?
Go ahead.
He's banged up.
Well,
kick
returns.
One of the reasons Austin Eckler left not San Diego, but the Chargers,
yes,
was they wanted to use him as a bell cow. And he's like, I'm not a bell cow. I don't want to be a bell cow anymore. Give me the ball in some opportune times and I will make it happen. A weapon, right? He wasn't looked upon the same lines of like you looked at Brian Robinson and supposed like, all right, you're going to carry the rock. Austin Eckler was to spell him or to do something special. The only reason he would have to be any sort of realm of a bell cow is if there were injuries. I look at Deebo the same way. How old is Deebo Samuel?
He's now 20. He's going to be 29.
A lot of miles on that 29. It's not that he's playing receiver like a number 2 usually plays. He's gotten hit a lot, okay? Like he has, and the thing is, it's not a bad thing. It's just what it is you expect of him. I don't expect if you have him, you pick your spots with Deebo to get the best that you can for the offense out of Deebo, right? And that to me is like, he's going to be really crucial on some of those third downs where you got to get him in space. I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be moving him around a whole hell of a lot, looking for great opportunities to get him open. Because another thing that Deebo Samuel doesn't do very well, and what you expect your number 2 receiver to do really well, he don't really get open. So, like, there's not a whole lot of separating. Look, you can look at anything you want to as far as Deebo Samuel. There are a couple things that are going to flash out to you if you look at it enough. He doesn't get a lot of separation. He's not a great route runner. Those are two pretty fucking important.
I agree with that San Francisco assessment.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I would also look at the San Francisco assessment and say, if I'm looking at it from just a talent standpoint, and this is where I think me and you get into some of the friction about it, they're more talented than we are.
There's no friction there. I totally agree.
But I also think that, like, when you look at his numbers have always been high when guys go down and he's asked on to do more. If they have other guys that come on, he starts going down that depth chart, right? Like he starts becoming less and less of a priority. And that to me just means where he's at from a talent standpoint as far as what he brings to the offense.
Sure.
So like if you have a situation where if a Brandon Ayuk is playing and a Juwan Jennings is playing, Deebo's not your number 2 because Juwan Jennings does better things than Deebo can do as a number 2.
Right. So this is where I want to acknowledge and say, yes, that is true. And also say that because this offense is different, I view Deebo as a number 2. Right. And so the way that I think of it is, so he had the All-Pro year in 2021. And I want to be very clear. I'm not expecting an All-Pro year or anything close to that from Deebo now at age 29. Right. So the All-Pro year, it was Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. You had Brandon Ayuk and you had George Kittle. And it was Deebo that was producing the most. Right. So you had the 1,400 yards receiving. He had another 300, 400 yards rushing. And like any number of touchdowns. I think he had 14 total that season. He was phenomenal. Christian McCaffrey gets there. Deebo's role changes some, right? Because now Christian McCaffrey's he's the do-it-all guy. Like, you hand the ball.
Those things better.
Christian McCaffrey's one of the best in the game when healthy, right? There's no shame in that.
Yeah.
And little dump offs. He gets the mismatch, playing out of the backfield on a backer. And so the way Kyle Shanahan's offense works is, well, I got a really good route runner, Brandon Ayuk. The only issue was he wasn't run blocking. That's why he didn't play much that 2021 season. Now he run blocks. Well, now he's on the field all the time. He's our best route runner. It's for him, right? We know this about Kyle Shanahan. Shut up, run my offense. That's it. He'll be open. That's your read. It's that simple. Brock Purdy does a bit more than that, of course, if that breaks down. I think that's why Brock Purdy's very good. But oftentimes it's not for Deebo. The way I see it with Cliff is there is going to be a bit more of a demand on Deebo to get open, but I think he's going to make it easy for him to get open in a way Kyle Shanahan didn't favor Deebo. I think he favored other guys to do it. I think Deebo can do it, just to be clear. I think in this system, he's going to be fine. Fewer mouths to feed, and I think that he is going to be able to produce more over here than he could in San Francisco. It's a different situation, and he's in a prove-it year. And again, you know how I feel about prove-it years with athletes, especially ones that have flashed, and he's flashed. I think he's going to be really, really good here.
I think you selectively framed that. So, like, the framing it, there's one part that I started laughing at just a little bit. That, as far as Deebo being the priority, I had it. You can say it the way that you said it. I would say he's a guy that doesn't scream talented as far as being able to get open, which is what you want a number 2 receiver to be able to do.
I think relative to Ayuk.
I think relative to anyone.
No,
like that.
No, I disagree.
I don't think you've watched enough Deebo. If I'm being completely honest, I just don't think you've watched enough tape on Deebo.
He was overweight last season. He said so himself. Trust me.
He doesn't get open. Like, that's my point.
I'm telling you, he'll be able to get open.
I think that he will if you scheme it. So, like, but my point.
I'm saying we'll scheme it. You don't think so?
Jesus Christ. All right, hang on. That's the difference.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to. Your talent should get you open. Terry McLaurin gets open because he's talented. You don't have to scheme it. T. Higgins gets open because he's talented. Those dudes, motherfucker, regardless.
That was to needle you. I'm just fucking with you.
But it doesn't matter. He can do that, right? Deebo, you have to, all right, this is the play to get Deebo open. That's what Cliff's got to think in his mind. It's not, I can line Deebo right there within the confines of the offense, and he's going to beat his guy off the line of scrimmage and just take it. No, it's not what it works for Deebo, right? Deebo, you might be able to throw a screen, and because of his tenacity, he'll break some tackles.
I just want to be, hang on. I also want to be clear. The guy throwing him the ball now throws people open too. And that's not Brock, when he's throwing a ball, it's not a tight window. They've got tons of space. So is it going to be tons of space open?
Not denying that. Not denying that. I just don't think it matters. So, like, what I'm saying is,
I think it matters. Big time.
It matters if I'm classifying you as a number 2 receiver. Okay, like,
okay. So we have a labeling issue right now.
Hugely, but I think the labeling issue has a lot to do with what it is you're expecting out of Deebo in this offense. So, like, when I agree with you, like, if you're lining him up as number 2 receiver and you're just having him run these fucking routes and you're trying to throw him the ball open at certain times or whatever, I don't expect him to get anywhere close to 2021 numbers. But what I do think you can do is you can scheme him and pick your spots throughout the course of a game or the season where you can get moments that flash like 2021. If you're not relying on him to do everything and you pick your spots like you did with Austin Eckler, right? Eckler wasn't out there the entire time, right? But you say, all right, it's 3rd down in this particular situation. I got to play schemed up for Deebo Samuel to get open and potentially get us a 1st down. I think he can have a lot of moments like that.
You had mentioned.
Crucial to the offense and what it is we're able to do. And you're like, and then every once in a while, you'll throw that pass to get him open. And because of his tenacity, he'll break open a bunch of fucking tackles and get you something that you would have never gotten, right? That's where he's talented.
Yes.
Like, but that to me is like, it plays into, it's, you pick your spots. What you don't want Deebo Samuel to have is 100 fucking targets and a bunch of hits.
But in no way do I want that. In no way do I want that, right? So when I say number 2 wide receiver, I go, here's the depth chart. I'm cool with him as the number 2 wide receiver. I think he has enough talent to do that. Where do I think he's going to be lined up? I don't know. It's going to be anywhere. It's going to be outside. It's going to be the slot. It's going to be inside. All of a sudden, a linebacker's on him. He can get open on a linebacker, right? So that's talking about scheming people open. I get that. Right. And what I'm saying is once you get the number 1 yak player in the NFL open, and Cliff will, right, we have number 2 production off the yak.
I don't think you could do that if you're relying on him to do that. Like, it's just a matter of usage. I think you think from a usage standpoint, things are going to be a lot easier for Deebo because he's within the confines of this offense. And if you feed him more than they were feeding him in San Francisco, you're just going to get more. You're going to get more out of him.
I think quality of opportunity is going to be better, is what I'm saying.
I think the quality opportunities will be better, but I think they're going to be fewer and far between, and they'll be more impactful than just relying on to do it. And the only way you can do that is if you get a true number 2 receiver, so you can use him as a true weapon. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so let's walk through that. Then money-wise, you're tying. Are you keeping Deebo beyond this year? Or is it, hey, thank you?
Oh, I have no idea. No idea. Like,
right. So I will tell you, I have a clear idea. If you get a number 2 receiver, I've got a very clear idea. Unless you draft one, just to be clear, you get a late second on a tall receiver, right, to fill that different type of role. I can see it because you don't have to extend that guy for 3 years, or 2 years rather, because of the 2nd round pick instead of 1st. But I can tell you right now, the money doesn't work. if you get a number 2 wide receiver and Deebo and you're extending Terry. You're tying way too much money into wide receiver. Historically, you like that precedent. It doesn't work to tie that much money into wide receiver.
Hold on. Sight unseen, you're willing to extend Deebo.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm nowhere near there.
I think with fit that we have over here. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me walk back a little bit. It was a bit too enthusiastic. Sight unseen.
Right now, you've never seen him suit up. You want to extend Deebo.
No, I would not. I would not.
Right.
Just to be clear. But I think within 4 or 5 games, I'll know I do. That's what I'm saying. And so once we get to that, and that's where we differ, right? Yeah. And that's fine. But if I'm of that mindset, right, then I am a bit more hesitant to bring in the number 2 who's going to cost money. We just talked about De'Ami Brown probably costing money, right? So bring in a number 2 who's going to cost money long-term as well. Terry McLaurin going to get extended this offseason. I'm damn sure of it. He's getting severely underpaid. He knows it. If he goes for $30 million a year, he deserves it. Not a single person in this fan base is going to complain about that, right? He's earned it. If anything, call it back pay for all the bullshit years we put him through. So he is going to get his money. Number 2 receiver is going to get his money. Deebo plays well. Now what? I don't think you can sign him. I think that's the point. And I think when we talk about fast, physical, in your face, this guy is so important to what we want to do long term. You give him a 3-year deal, call it curtains. Thank you for the time and for continuing to set what we want to do.
Which is also why you see me more up with a Darius Slayton or Marquise Hollywood Brown than I am
depending on that number. Yeah,
DK Metcalf or T Higgins sort of guy, because I think you can get one of those dudes on more of a prove it 1 to 2 year sort of deals where you need to back out of it and do whatever after year 1. You could do that. I just don't think right now at wide receiver, if you look across the entire landscape, there's anyone you want to hitch your fucking wagon to at this particular point without seeing more. So, like, that's all I'm saying. Is like,
I agree with you, just to be clear. I will be sooner to get to that point than you, but I agree with you.
But my point, like, if you're going to go get DK Metcalf, which I don't think is going to happen, but if you were to go get a DK Metcalf or T Higgins was an option to go get a T Higgins, right? Mm-hmm. If you did that and you still, like, if they did that post Deebo Samuel, then unless Deebo is, like, light years ahead what I think he's going to be, we all know, all right, buddy?
Yeah.
I hope you did enough to go get paid somewhere else. But I also think there's a reason San Francisco was willing to get rid of him. There's a reason that compensation was the way it was to go get him. There's a reason it looks like a damn good deal. There's a lot of miles on that dude, and I really do think you need to look at his highlights from last year to see exactly what kind of player he was. There's a reason I asked Paulie Polo when he was on here last week.
Okay.
Yo, when were those highlights?
But we agree that last year he was overweight because he said so.
I don't think how old is he? It doesn't get easier. Like,
hang on 1 second. But can we
why
agree
was he overweight?
Between the injuries and the pneumonia, right?
Oh, no,
and this being overweight, okay, right? Like these affect numbers, right? That he may have been going through some stuff.
I'm not denying that, but I also think that, like, if I'm looking at it from I hate hearing this to me is kryptonite when you guys, if anyone alludes to there was something going on in San Francisco that didn't have him working as hard.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm citing.
I'm just saying the motivation piece. Like, I don't understand how not being in San Francisco is not enough motivation. The only thing I saw with Deebo post 2021 was sort of along the lines of like what you saw with like a Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, which is like, if you're going to use me like this, you better compensate me properly because you know you are declining. I'm not going to have as long a career.
Correct.
Because you're using me this way.
Yes.
And that to me is like, and that's what makes Deebo special. So like, I look at Deebo as like, use that motherfucker up. Like Bill Withers, use me, motherfucker. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and you'll be able to this year, right? Because it is a prove it year.
But that's why I'm saying I'm not hitching my wagon to a 29-year-old that's gotten hit as much as that motherfucker's gotten hit.
By the way, I liken this. So when we talk about motivation in pro athletes, we may differ here. Some are motivated, some aren't, etc. I'm not putting Deebo in this category, but what I am saying is that once you mess with the money, once you're in the final year of a deal, it is similar to players playing regular season games, and then there's that one big game. You're always 100%, right? At least in your mind you are, until you get to that big game, and then all of a sudden it turns out you had a little extra juice you didn't even know you had. right? I think
Let's
that's a
sign that
contract year with Deebo Samuel. He's with Jaden Daniels. I expect big things. I'm fine to shed the label of wide receiver too, because I think we're actually saying similar things here.
He's just a weapon. I just want to call him a weapon.
He is a weapon. I'm fine with that. He is a weapon.
He's a very highly used weapon.
But yeah, and I would like to keep that very highly used weapon over here longer term. I anticipate that's what Adam Peters wants to do. I don't think a 5th rounder was a 1-year rental.
I'd like to see
it may
how
end
it
up
goes.
being. Yeah, we all do.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Is like I just got to see how it goes over the course of the season. I'm not look the Deebo Samuel and the compensation we gave to go get Deebo Samuel is enough for me to say if he's here for a year, I'm fine. If he doesn't play, I'm fine.
You had mentioned one more thing. So why is San Francisco getting rid of him? Right? You had mentioned that, right? So that Brock Purdy deal is also the reason you're seeing a lot of free agents beginning to walk. Right? Like they have been so high in cash spending. Owners have said it through John Lynch, right? That they have been so high on cash spending. They have not won. They're like, hey guys, we're tired of spending all this money and not getting over the hump. Right? So that's how they're still shopping Brandon Ayuk.
As they should be.
Okay, so like they're gonna have Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, right?
But I also think they were being hard-headed last year. Like so there's some things with San Francisco I just don't agree with, but there's other things as far as like I've heard Shanahan and Lynch just said we're not in the habit of getting rid of good players. Like it's like that, like that's of course, right? Like I just think that when there are teams like San Francisco, Adam Peters is going to know more than anybody. There's a reason he goes and gets Deebo Samuel, right?
Right.
But I think to me, I cannot scream to you guys enough how crucial I think Deebo Samuel is going to be to this offense as far as what
we're not in disagreement, and the audience gets that guaranteed. They know how important you view him in those clutch moments. Yes,
right. I think he's special for Cliff. I just think if you're looking at what it is you'd expect to see from two numbers and an offense that looks like this one, where if you look at our numbers over the course of last season. God damn, we were a good offense. And we scored with will. We scored anytime we fucking wanted to. We had a bunch of fucking yards. Who would typically look like a number 2 receiver in that? I just don't think Deebo's that. That's it. That's literally it. That's all it is. Totally I just think he's a weapon to be used. And when I said last week, pitch count, what I meant by pitch count is kind of, I thought about that because I re-listened to it and I didn't want to use the word pitch count. I'm saying pitch count. Like Austin Eckler, I think if you use Deebo too much, he won't be there.
Yeah, but okay. But how many touches do you think I'm giving him a game?
I have no idea. I'm not talking about touches. I'm talking about routes run. I'm talking about on the field. Period.
Routes run. Oh wow. Okay.
I want him to be out there fucking like I want him to be the weapon. I want every time he's out there, he's fucking doing something you didn't see him do last time.
Okay. No, that's fair. I think the way I view Deebo is last offseason, we did a bunch of prove it deals with guys that were looking for opportunities that have some talent, etc. Deebo to me is a known commodity doing this with some championship level experience in being to Super Bowl. So I think if this is a prove it steroid sort of situation where like Adam knows. Adam's not trading for this guy if he doesn't think he's good. Or if he doesn't think he can be here for a longer time. Because a 1-year rental, to me, I will say it right now, I think that'd be quite dumb. I think that ends up being our worst case is this doesn't work out. But I think if he produces...
I think that's too narrowly framed.
Maybe. But I think if he produces, I think the intention is to extend the guy.
No shit. But that's the point is that this is a risk well worth taking.
Agreed.
But the point is it's a risk. And I don't think anyone thinks it's anywhere close to a guarantee that he's a dude that you want to extend for a very long period of time.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. It's well worth the risk, especially to see what Cliff Kingsbury can do with a guy like this. It's the same way I felt about Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler was extremely special to this offense. I really do. I think that as the season went on and he was hurt and what was happening with the offensive line and our run game period made him so much less effective than he was early on, right? Mm-hmm. But if they were able to sustain some stuff with the offensive line, sustain more of a run, I think Austin Eckler could have been a true real special weapon in the offense.
Agreed.
I look at Deebo in that same way.
Unfortunate concussions for Austin. One of them happened on a kick return. Agreed.
I think scrappier Austin Eckler is the way that I look at Deebo Samuel, if I'm being completely honest.
I think much more talented Austin Eckler is the way I would look at it.
I don't know how you can
tackles.
Say that. That's okay.
Oh, it's second nature for this guy to break tackles. You look at the numbers; he's tops in the league in these categories. I think he's a special player. I think you and I can agree on that. If you're able to get first team All Pro at any point, you're special, right?
He was a top 5 player in the league in 2020.
There you go. Number 30 entering. Number 30. Hold on. Number 30 in the NFL top 100 entering last season. Did he have a down year? Yes. Do I think that's who he is? No. And so we'll end up seeing what happens there. Just the final note on the Niners.
I love his Instagram shit. I love the mentality he's coming with. He seems hungry.
I'm telling you, that proven year will do it.
Hang on. He did a lot of shit last year that made you think that his mind was right. And there were a lot of times last year where I just wanted to say, Deebo, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm putting that out there.
It doesn't look good when you're losing.
Show me. That's all I'm saying about Deebo.
Understood.
Show me.
I just want to also add on the 49ers mass exodus right now that it's not just a Deebo thing. They're doing this with a lot of people right now because of that cash spending from years past. So I don't want it to be isolated to Deebo because there have also been years where Kyle Shanahan has wanted to keep Deebo, and Deebo's actually been like, hey, should I move places? You just, for example, most recently, the Brandon Ayuk deal. He's like, you can't pay both of us. I know that. So why don't I go ahead and get a head start where I have a couple of years? He says, no, I want you here. Right. So like there's also that. It's a complicated topic. What'd you say?
What did we trade for Deebo?
5th round pick.
That's all I'm
They're
saying.
clearing money off the books. We know this.
All I'm saying. There's an entire league.
Yes.
5th round pick for Deebo Samuel. That's it. That's where he is. That's it. That's
Understood.
That's who he is.
You don't. Okay. Anyway, so we can obviously chat about this forever. More on Deebo went for half an hour. So clearly we're passionate about it. We would love to hear yours in the comment. And speaking of, let's go over to that comment mailbag featuring an intro from our very own Nikki.
Comment mailbag time, motherfuckers. District divided, ain't got time for no suckers. Spread the word, get in line. OGs and new G's, it's your time. And spread the gospel, cause this shit is divine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you as always for that intro, Nikki, beginning with Tony. Shout out, Tony. Oh, gee.
I like Deebo Samuel.
I know you do. Just to be clear, I think we are.
I hate being on the opposite side of you sometimes, man.
I'm not sure we're on the opposite side. We're saying similar things.
Sounds like we're arguing, and because we're arguing, I sound like some hating ass bitch. I hate that shit.
It's all the label.
Medium.
I said it 25 minutes into the conversation. We have a labeling issue. That's it. We begin with Tony. Oh, gee. This is is Jaden Daniels already a top 5 quarterback video? We also had the Deebo one, so just setting the context there. Tony goes, KDot, you did it to yourself. Why did you even tell us you were in the room of a minor? He did it that way. I just needed to say it that way. If it was because of the background, you could have blurred it. LOL. That's the comment from Tony. KDot, your reply.
I have nothing to hide.
We go over to Mr. Antoine. Shout out. We got a couple comments here.
Hey, let me pull the curtain back. Amit heard me confess some stuff before the pod. I have nothing to hide. I am secure with who I am.
I can confirm. I'm choosing to keep it to myself because I love KDot, but he got nothing to hide. Okay.
Legality.
Mr. That too. That too. I just got back in the country lukewarm on being here, just given everything going on. But here's Mr. Antoine. All right. You're underselling Jaden Daniels. Pat Mahomes was called top 5 quarterback after his first season. That got a thumbs up. KDot, your reaction to that?
People that were calling Pat Mahomes top 5 after first season also need to chill the fuck out just a little bit, right? Like, to me, I wasn't calling him that.
Well, so he won MVP.
First year?
First season. Yeah, he threw 50 touchdowns, remember? The first year starting, just to be clear.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Hey, come on.
That was the second season, but his first season starting.
That doesn't matter. It wasn't his rookie season. That's all I'm saying. Is like if after a rookie year, I'm not doing that. But that being said, if Jaden, come on, where was he in my ranking?
6.
If the motherfucker just shows up next year, he's gonna be in the top 5. I just need to see it sustained a little bit. It's a shoo-in. I think that I don't want to put this on the fucker, but the fact that I have him with 6. If he plays anywhere close to the way he played last season or better, the motherfucker's going to be top 2, top 3 in my book. You don't think that's going to be the case?
100%. Especially because there are so few quarterbacks that begin their first 2 years with just hit. It almost never happens, actually, the more you think about it. So if Jaden gets anywhere close to what he did last season, I think that's a wrap, right? Because that's an entire offseason of defensive coordinators being able to scheme for the guy. And then if you feel how KDot does, which is Deebo's a wide receiver 5 and Terry's a wide receiver 1, then this guy's doing it with nothing once again. So I'm just fucking with you.
No, I think you're onto something. If it was up to me, you used to play NCAA football?
Of course.
Deebo would get the athlete designation.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
That to me is what Deebo is.
He is. And I called him a weapon and playmaker as we even introed the conversation. So
those are some of my favorite one of my favorite players in the history of football, and I'm so angry about the way his career went because I don't think people were being clever enough. It's Percy Harvin.
Yep.
Motherfucker was a dog. Okay. And it's
incredible.
If it wasn't for the migraines, and also I just don't think you had offense coordinators that were clever enough or wanted to step outside the box enough to take full utilization of who he is. I even think Kyle Shanahan hasn't been as clever as he needs to with it, which is what makes me excited about Deebo. I just don't know what that looks like. I think that he can be just as effective just getting carries out of the backfield than he is as far as catching routes, depending on what we look like on offense. So I don't know what it looks like, but just call him a number 2 receiver, no, athlete.
21 personnel with Eckler and like a split back, Eckler and Deebo.
Holy shit.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay. Like,
right.
The other receivers don't even matter at that point.
There you go.
It's like, it gets scary.
But that makes me a lot more excited than Deebo on the outside, opposite of Terry and Brian Robinson.
I agree with you.
So, give me Darius Slayton on the outside and then have a Deebo and fucking Eckler in the backfield. God,
I'm just saying Noah Brown is sufficient from that perspective. In my opinion.
You need somebody to take the top off the defense.
Terry does that. I know what you mean. I'm really just needling you right now. Here's Mr. Antoine one more time. Lattimore has not been fully healthy in 3 seasons. What makes you confident he will ever be again? He's played 7, 10, 9 games. That's not good. Okay, so that's Mr. Antoine. KDot, your reaction.
I'm not. Remember, Hamit's the one who convinced me it was a bad move.
By accident, as it turns out. I did.
I'm hoping for the best. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah. So I think that, how old is Lattimore now? He's 28, right? 28, 29. Same.
I think he's 29.
So I view it as you still have 3, maximum 4 good years. What the corner and receiver, I think your sort of ceiling is 32 to still be able to produce unless you're truly an exception to the rule. 20. Okay. Thank you. So what makes me confident that he will be again? Honestly, I know people consider him older. His age. I think he's entering the prime of his career right now, or he's in the middle of it. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he's been a bit unlucky, but I think he's going to be on a defense that demands a little less because of the offensive pressure we can put on teams. So I think he's going to be very, very good. Give him a full offseason. Let Joe Witt go to work. Joe Witt finally has chess pieces. I'm excited for him. Like, he's going to get chess pieces between the draft and between free agency over here. So I think it helps everybody. And having a guy like Marshawn, I think he's going to be just fine. Could end up being wrong, but I think he'll be just fine.
Doesn't disagree with that assessment. I'm still in hope mode.
Yes, exactly. We go over donate one more time. Shout out. Oh, gee. So if you're Myles Garrett, do you go to the Commanders because they actually want and need you as a player? Or do you go to Philadelphia because they don't want the other team to get you? Birdman hand rub. So here's quickly, we didn't update you guys on the Myles Garrett thing in case you haven't been following. He tried to meet with the owner, Jimmy Haslam, and Jimmy Haslam, I don't even think said no. I think he just didn't. I think he just ghosted him.
Talk to the GM.
Yeah. And then it was like, talk to the GM, Andrew Berry, who's like, well, I mean, I don't want to lose you. I'll get fired if I lose you. So like, he doesn't want to trade him. KDot, your reaction to Myles Garrett, Commanders or Eagles, should he be allowed to leave?
He won't have a choice. And anywhere's better than Cleveland. And I have thought about that. Anywhere's better than Cleveland. Anywhere's better than Cleveland if you're Myles Garrett at this particular point in time. Okay. I also think what Myles Garrett needs to be doing is figuring out how it is he needs to figure out his workout situation when he's sitting out and getting fined, because that's what it's coming down to.
We go over to BetBoy, not to NYC. It's BetBoy Tony C. Shout out. And thank you for chiming in live so I could actually see it written properly without just like all the lowercase crap. So BetBoy Tony C. Shout out. Great show as always, fellas. First off, for all the GM he's playing and salary cap gymnastics he's expecting the Bengals to do, I don't see his ass volunteering to take any pay cuts. Second, our fan base is pretty effing ungrateful. John Allen has been a loyal soldier here and a damn good player. If we had a decent edge-setting defensive end, he'd show his ass. He wouldn't be seeing double teams on just about every snap. Third, Jaden is already top 5 to me, and it starts with that clutch gene. It's only up from here. Oh, yeah, Eagles fans, go F yourselves. KDot, your reaction to the comment, you can pick any one of those points.
If anyone is like excited about the prospect that Jonathan Allen is going on, is like, hey, pack your bags, bitch, leave. Yeah, those are ungrateful sons of bitches, but I don't think majority of us are in that boat as much as it's ran its course. Yeah, it'd be great if we had a generational pass rusher to put next to Jonathan Allen. There's no guarantee of that, and if you want to add that and pay Jonathan Allen what you're paying Jonathan Allen, it gets a little harder to do. So, like, I'm just saying it doesn't work out right now. Doesn't make you unloyal or ungrateful for what it is he's brought to the team, right? But it's like, I want to see this guy get the most that he can out of his career and put himself in the best situation. And I actually think it's good for him to be a free agent right now to go see what the landscape is out there. So, like, more than anything, it's like a respect to John Allen to, like, hey, go figure out what it is you want to do and go find yourself the best situation you can go and find. That's the most I could say as far as like a thank you. Because yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a total favor to the guy, because I think ultimately, you know, if you want him at the $22 million, that's a true no, I know, but that's the true we love you, we want you here. It's like $22 million, we could save 16, we're choosing to keep you. That was not the case, and it also just makes objective sense, right? Like, we are trying to build other stuff, and Jonathan Allen's been good. I will say this in reference to BetBoy Tony C's comment on Jonathan Allen, that John Keim and a few others have mentioned that if they did get a proper edge setter, that it would create opportunities. They had mentioned Johnny Newton as somebody that could have made even more plays with a proper edge setter, because then the quarterback has to stay inside, is not allowed to escape. But that would have been true for Jonathan Allen as well. So I do think it's a good comment. And obviously I agree on the Jaden front of things. Already top 5. For me, it is the it factor. It is the clutch gene in moments where the game matters, and moments where, well, the moment is huge, the guy consistently steps up. So I agree. And I think KDot does too, just to be clear. He just needs to see more. If he sees more of the same, he's there. So I just want to have your back on that.
Yeah, you said something that's going to make me sound like more of a hater because I had to check you on something.
Go ahead.
I watched the All-22. You pay a man that much, he should be winning one-on-ones. He should be winning more and being more disruptive. He wasn't. Maybe that's because he didn't have enough talented guys around him. But if that's the case, I don't want to pay you that.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm in total agreement with you. Tony, another comment. Shout out, Tony, OG. We're going to figure out how to stop the tush push. Frankie Luvu is a Samoan, and in Samoa, rugby is number 1. Shout out to Samoa's Girl Scout cookies. That motherfucker is going to fly his boys from Samoa to Virginia to train our D-line, which will include Myles Garrett, and that will be the end of the tush push versus Washington. Hey, Coach Lombard, drop that YouTube channel name. I would also like that because I got some comments, Coach. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead. Get out your reaction.
Guess live, Coach.
I would watch the shit out of that.
I fucking hate the tush push. It should be outlawed. I don't want to hear shit from Coach about it. Yeah, fuck that noise. But I just, if it's not culturally insensitive, I just want more hakas.
No, it's fair take. Listen, we might get it. I don't know. I don't know what Adam Peters is building. We'll find out in a few days. Maybe that's the culture.
Or is that, that's the right thing, right? Am I fucking that up? Or is that Maui?
Well, hakas, so that's going to be what, New Zealand, yeah? Because New Zealand rugby made that famous. Yeah.
I might be wrong about that. I don't know. I just need more yelling in languages I don't understand, because that shit just fires me up.
Truth, yeah. We go over to Coach Lombard.
You supposed to me, you son of a bitch.
I did. You said you liked it. We got sorry. You knew what that meant?
Nah, I just the tone. I've been around enough brown people. I know the tone is not. I'm like,
I just like it. I was like, oh, let me try it.
Yeah. What the fuck?
I love you, buddy. We go.
The thing is, every Jamaican term I know is just way too problematic. It's like cancelable. They have a very not healthy relationship with homosexuals down there, and it's like the only terms you can use.
Yeah,
it's like
Indians are known for being so welcoming to the game.
I don't know, there's enough of you motherfuckers. I'm
just playing. Not at all, dude. Not at all. Somehow the whole country's in agreement on that one. Coach Lombard.
There's so many of you.
Yes.
It's so wide.
And apparently we've got one take and one stance together. It's just not allowed.
It's a tapestry of so many different people and so many of them. Also, my thumb is exposed and it looks really weird.
Well, given what you're into, I think that's good news for you. Coach Lombard goes, sorry about the long comments, guys. I will keep this one short. Coach, just for context, thank you. No, I'm just playing. No, the last comment, I was just like, oh my gosh, we're getting lectured by the Eagles guy again. I agree that Hurts is a top 5 QB, and it's too early to make that call for Jaden. Point in KDot's favor. I say it all the time. It's a 3-year eval. Point to KDot. Hella promising thus far. Let's see how the next 2 years go. And I think that's the measure take. I think that's honest to God the correct take. I'm the one that tends to wear these rose-tinted glasses over here, which is why I have him number 2 right now already. KDot, your reaction to Coach's comment.
Just from hearing Coach say it. Jaden's number 2. Jalen Hurts is number 8. Fuck everybody.
I knew you were my boy. That's right. That's right.
Man, you just cursed at me in a foreign language. Fuck you. I ain't really on your part right now.
Just want to see you.
I was an anti-coach for a second. Okay.
I said I fucking love you.
The enemy is my enemy is my friend. That's all that's happening right now.
Don't get it twisted. I hate you. Mr. Payne 134. By the way, Kate, just a heads up. We need to be cognizant of time because it automatically chops us at 2. So I don't know that there's going to be time for after the pod. But Mr. Payne goes, think about it. First year, knew everything. And we go to the NFC Championship. Pay attention. We will bring back some of our free agents, draft well, and elevate draft picks from last year and undrafted draft picks from last year. Think about it. Tyler Owens was undrafted, but a beast on special teams. Like Fred Smoot say, let grandma cook. Get out your reaction.
That's the hope, but it's really hard to get back there, and every other team is also trying to get better.
Yeah. No, it's true. We'll say that, hey, when we say in Adam we trust, you can even look at last year's free agency class, and granted, he had a lot of swings at it, but a lot of hits, and that doesn't always happen, right? We are well familiar that does not happen. Right. But you talk about Frankie Louvu, who you and I were both like, that's the number 1 free agent signing. Holy shit, who is this guy? He's awesome. And he ended up being exactly that, second team All-Pro. I'm sorry?
We knew. I mean, shit, we were really high on Frankie going in this. Right?
No, of course. I'm saying upon the signing occurring, you and I were both like, oh, shit, this dude. So he's seeking missile. Exactly. Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, Jeremy Chin, Dante Fowler, like this guy, Dorrance Armstrong, this guy hit. Like he did a really awesome job. He had the Michael Davis, right? That didn't work out. That's going to happen. But way more hits than misses. That's excellent GM work. That's how it works. So like great first year. Let's see how he does in year 2. We go over to Chuck Pettit, 6550 shout out. Jaden number 1. Book it. That's where we're at. KDot, can you see Jaden being the number 1 quarterback after this coming season?
Unless he wins the Super Bowl.
He has to win the Super Bowl. I agree. He has to. And if he does, then I think you can make the case. But even then, the longevity of Mahomes and the 3,
you got to have it to get the belt.
That's the thing. You cannot be number 1. And that's my thing. He's number 2 right now, but God, to get to number 1, the only way he can move up is winning a Super Bowl.
But that's also, and that's like, that would put him squarely in that Lamar Jackson territory, which is like the guy I want to call number 1, but he doesn't have the hardware.
Yeah, I'm saying he's the best of the rest. And there's Mahomes. He's the best of the rest is the way I view it right now. Even though Jalen Hurts does have a Super Bowl, so does Matt Stafford. I mean,
if he goes deep into the playoffs again, not necessarily like say Super Bowl, it gets him in that Lamar Jackson conversation, and maybe I'm able to put him over Lamar Jackson, which is fucking crazy to say, but like maybe. But then Lamar also has the MVP.
Because the clutch gene
MVP, he has playoffs. The MVP.
No, I agree, and that's the regular season. But I put more weight on the playoffs.
I do too.
Right,
but you get into the longevity sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, like I said,
longevity for
sure. Like I'm saying, there's a conversation to be had. If we have the conversation, maybe I do come out that he's better than Lamar.
We go to Big Papa Grizzly with not 1 but 2 comments that just happened. Big Papa goes, Tress Way has more passing yards in an NFC Championship game than Dak Prescott. Just going to leave that there. That is a fun fact, and it is true. If you were to look that up, that's a good little trivia question. Name the players on the Washington Commanders that have more passing yards in an NFC Championship game than Dak Prescott. Don't forget Tress Way. He is a member of that list. KDot, your reaction?
I think Dallas is going to be a lot better than people expect. Also, I'm not entirely sure what's happening because Amit has frozen for me, but maybe I'm frozen. What the fuck is happening? All right, so Amit's internet went out for a second. I guess maybe I'll see if I can fit in like a little story time. The Battle of A Trains last night. Once upon a time, in the neon glow of a dimly lit club, A Train held court, drink in hand, ego unchecked. He moved through the crowd like a man with diplomatic immunity, until he very much did not. For as the night wore on, his words grew looser, his hands a little freer, and his judgment non-existent. He told the senator's wife she looked mad single, attempted to salsa with a bouncer's girlfriend, and in his most egregious offense, tried to negotiate bottle service with stolen currency. How he acquired a bag of ancient Greek coins, no one knows. When security finally intervened, A-Train made his fatal mistake. He squared up to the largest man in the room, slurred something about immunity in international waters, and attempted to get away on foot, only to trip over the VIP rope and land directly at the feet of a well-connected club owner who did not find him amusing. By dawn, his passport was stamped, his name whispered in hushed tones, and his seat on an outbound flight secured. The country breathed a sigh of relief. Somewhere, A-Train nursed a drink with a new alias, waiting for the heat to die down. And that, children, is why we refer to that club as the incident. And that's as G-rated as I can get as far as like a little story tell about A-Train. But I guess maybe if given the opportunity, I'll have like a series of these. I can't necessarily talk about all the Bolivian snow that he has because I guess YouTube has some restrictions on that, and we're monetized now, so can't quite go as far as I want to as far as the other things go down. But I just feel as though you guys should learn so much more about the exploits of A-Train because it'll give you a better idea of the man that you see here on this podcast and on it, and how it is that I necessarily look at him and knowing the full dichotomy of man, to knowing that there's a yin and a yang to that guy, that he can be so professional, so absolutely professional, and the best like voice. Like you hear him talk here on this pod, you're expecting him to be like the play-by-play guy on 980 or 106.7 or doing games at some point, right? We're going to get to that level. I'm much more of the color guy. I'm not nearly as talented as him, but you think he'd be all put together. But Lord knows, when the night gets long and dark, and there's a club somewhere near the DC waterfront or across the river in Clarendon or Roslyn or Alexandria, when that Bolivian snow starts to fall and A-Train's there to collect it all, things get a little dicey. And if you're around that man in those situations, it gets a little scary. Now, I try to come here and tell you guys so you're aware that, as I've said before, if you see him out there in his natural habitat, to approach him like you would an earth sign mammal, an armed earth sign mammal, and protect yourself. But also just to know and to see him in his natural habitat and to see who he is when he's here on this podcast, just it screams or it speaks to just how incredible human beings can be, that you can be so far over on this end and then so far over on the other end. It's like we have so many complexities about us as human beings, and I just feel as though he's a great example of that. Maybe not a great example in a positive sense, but a great example in the sense of like he's that to the umpteenth degree. I just think it's something truly special. Now I'm gonna stop now because I don't think he's gonna be aware of this particular part of the pod until he starts looking at it live, because his internet went out and me being able to do this bit, we'll probably come back and just do some mailbag shit. So this will be like a little Easter egg for him. So it'll also be a good example of whether or not he actually listened to the entire podcast, which I think he does. But if he doesn't, hot damn, blow up the comment section. Let him know. All right, he just sent me. He's restarting the router. It's like a IT guy, okay? You just kind of stuck with me for a bit. I wonder, should I go back to Commander stuff or just kind of vamp about just random things? Oh, I'll do this. So Amit always talks to me about he loves fucking watching. Oh, he's apologizing. Thought we were on a roll. We were on a roll, man, but it's okay. Things happen, you know. I've been the cause of a bunch of technical difficulties here on my end. He loves watching that goddamn Fox sports show or whatever, the one with Nick Wright and all that shit. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I don't think it's because I have a problem necessarily with those personalities on the show as much as I just have an issue with the format. I don't like the hot take sports bullshit. Does anyone really like that shit anymore? Like, I don't watch even the clips anymore of anything that happens on First Take or whatever. Maybe the only time I'll watch is if I know there's going to be like an argument, something like live that's happening or somebody has an issue. Like, I heard something through the grapevine, like Kendrick Perkins is having an issue with somebody, but maybe it's not even, I think it's Charles Barkley, so that didn't even really count. But like, I don't find them entertaining like at all anymore. I just don't think there's any more nuance as much as they're talking heads just trying to get a reaction out of motherfuckers. So like, that's when you hear me say, like, I like to listen to like Mina Kimes and her show, or there's some other dudes that do long form stuff. But I will say this, that show, First Things First, I think that's the one that Amit likes to listen to that has Nick Wright on it. They also have Kevin Wiles. He was on a guy who I think deserves a lot more praise, which is Pablo Torre. You might have seen him on Around the Horn, which also rest in peace to that show. Apparently that's going off the air. I have a long thing I can say about Around the Horn. I was actually lucky enough to go see that live once. Same thing with PTI. It was fucking awesome. But just kind of being in the studio. But yeah, it show meant so much as far as just at least putting a face to certain journalists across the nation. And some of them end up being talking heads that kind of sucked. But overall, I think that just showed a lot of good talent. But Pablo Torre has a channel. I think it's called Pablo Torre Finds Out. It's through DraftKings and Meadowlark. Meadowlark Media is the media conglomerate. Well, not really conglomerate, but the company that was put together by Dan Lebitard, who's also a really good dude in this space. And John Skipper, I think, runs it, former CEO of ESPN or program or whatever he was at CNN. But they do something on the DraftKings network. Pablo Torre Finds Out. If you can watch that show, Jesus Christ, it was good. But they just last night, I was listening. He had Kevin Wiles, who was on that show, First Things First, Amit likes so much. And they went through a list of things that they consider to be cool. Kevin showed up with a list of not top 10, not top 20, but in the only way he could, the top 71 list of things that he thought was cool. And Lord knows it's a good, okay, shit, he's back. So between you and us, right? It'll be okay. All right, let's add him back to the stage. Hey, buddy.
Yo, jeez, the hell happened? You got
I have no idea.
That was straight. Okay, so you kept going strong. Appreciate that.
No, not necessarily.
No, okay, cool. Well,
we cut that whole part out.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we have 10 minutes, 11 minutes to
run through.
So here we go. Big Papa Grizzly goes, I view Jay Allen the same way I do Kerrigan. He's a commander for life, no matter what happens at the end of his career here. He wrote out his time here in silence until that final Rivera season. Not a Hall of Fame player, not even an ROF player for this franchise. Just a solid guy who wore the burgundy and gold through the worst times our franchise had seen and tried to lead as best he could. Get your reaction.
I get the sentiment. I also love the idea that like we're now the special team and you want to be a part of like the things of the success that we think are going to happen. But you never know, man. And like it'll never take away from the memories of what it is that he's given to the team of the franchise. So remember those things, give him the kudos or the flowers it needs to, and then all realize that certain relationships, certain things just come to an end. And maybe he'll go on to do even greater things somewhere else, but it'll never change what he did for us here. And it doesn't change the fact that you should still be grateful. Just doesn't mean that it has to continue.
Completely agree. Now on to the next video, which was the breaking news that Deebo Samuel had been traded to the Washington Commanders. 3 comments here. First one from Jess Santo. Very short, probably the shortest one he's ever done. How mad is Brandon Ayuk right now? Ha 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 ha. With Deebo Samuel, of course, being the Niners receiver traded over here instead of Brandon Ayuk, who had been clamoring to potentially get out of town. Instead signing the 4-year, $120 million deal with the 49ers. Get out your reaction.
He got paid, got hurt, still get paid. Works out. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah. He's getting his money. He'll be okay. Maybe a future Patriot if you believe those rumors. Here's the Nathan Perry. Shout out.
Or Commander.
No, that'd be something, huh?
That's number
something.
2.
The Nathan... Deebo would be like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, all right. So the Nathan Perry, shout out Nathan and shout out Ref the District. An absolutely outstanding outfit in the podcast space as well with Commanders content. For some reason, I thought Deebo was also a plus in run blocking, which would have been a good reason to get him. But he appears average. This at least answers who is wide receiver 2. And I'd expect the early draft to be spent elsewhere. So, KDot, you seem to have latched on to the run blocking element of it. Your take.
I'm just saying, at least it looks as though Nathan might have looked at more recent tape than most of you.
He was overweight. We go to Coach Lombard. Great trade. It's 17 to 21 million and a fifth for what I will call an R3 talent. No separation, no hands, but elite after the catch.
God damn it.
A great scheme fit for Cliff. No, this is all you get on.
Okay.
I think AP is better at trades than he is at the draft. All right. Well, I'll immediately push back on better at trades than he is at the draft, because so far what we have is Marshawn Lattimore, who did not do well last season. And in terms of the draft, we got
Jahan Dotson.
Fucking Daniels. Oh, yeah, and Jahan Dotson. That's true. We got Jaden Daniels, and we got Mike Sanders still. Brandon Coleman started at left tackle for us. I don't know. I'd say pretty good at drafting. Get out your reaction.
Deebo Samuel is the number 2 receiver. He's great along all lines. I don't know what I was thinking about anything I've said previously. This motherfucker's going to have over 1,000 yards. He's exactly who you need to line up. Motherfucker's going to be able to get separation. Easy. Not only is the yak's just another component of just the multitude of things he brings to the receiver position. We got a true special number 2. There's no doubt Jaden Daniels going to throw for 5,000 yards next year.
Elite hands as well, as you know, as we all know.
Separation, getting open, runs the cleanest routes.
So clean. This was the show. Speaking of clean, this episode, this was District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm Amit. That is KDot. Jam-packed episode, of very eventful episode at that. We'll see how the editing turns out at the end of this one. And if you enjoyed the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and KDot.
Share this shit! I don't know if the mic picked up any of that.
It picked up all. It was clean as hell. I tried
to keep the octave at a certain level to make sure it didn't max out on the mic. And I could have kept going. I could have kept that going.
I was literally going to tell you that was the best share of the shit you've done, because it picked up perfectly.
Nice.
So
nice.
Just stay there. Unfortunately, no time for after the pod. We were finally going to do one, but we're hitting very, very close to the 2-hour mark. At the moment we get going,
we kind of had one.
We did actually with the edit. I'm very curious to see what you said. So we'll see you guys next Friday, 2 p.m., barring some insane news that breaks, in which case we'll see you for another emergency pod. But until then, enjoy yourselves and take it easy. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Remember, keep it between us.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.